It's fascinating. When somebody wants to make something safe again, when somebody wants to clean up the streets so that you, your family, your kids have a nice place to play and walk around and enjoy because that's where you live, it is a wild thing to watch somebody or a group of people freak out over it. And the more and more Trump does things to make America great again and safe again and beautiful again, the more the Trump derangement syndrome seems to just be pouring out from the Democrat Party and the progressive left. Now, I'm not saying that's everybody in the Democrat Party. I think there's a lot of Democrats that really want to enjoy where they live. But there's sure heck of a lot of them, and we'll get to it, that seem to be upset that Donald Trump's doing what he's doing. Well, he wouldn't be doing what he's doing if you would be doing your job. And one of those main jobs is to protect your constituents of what you don't want to do. Now, remember, Democrats are the party of defund the police. They're the defund of Black Lives Matter. They're the defund Black Lives Matter. Forgive me. They're the group of Black Lives Matter, Antifa, taking over Chaz and Chop, all that stuff. So it's just a fascinating thing to witness in our lifetimes that you have a group that is just strongly against America. That's all projecting upon all of you that you're against America. As I've always mentioned in politics, whenever you see Democrats projecting something or just saying anything really about the Republican Party, you could probably make a good bet that they're just talking about themselves. Not always. Remember, it's a bet, it's a gamble, but you probably win. So the big news yesterday was Trump promises to liberate D.C. from savagery and filth and scum. And I got a lot of video clips coming up here in just one moment. So President Donald Trump said on Monday that the nation's capital would be liberated from savagery, filth, scum, as he repeatedly set to deploy the National Guard to Washington, D.C. That a boy Trump, that's a president right there. That's called a leader. Trump made the comments in his Truth Social post ahead of a Monday press conference, which we'll get to, and we'll also be checking out for Dark MAGA. If you already watch it, that's fine. But I was told it was the biggest press briefing that probably I will have ever seen. So like the amount of people in the room, all that other stuff. So we're going to break that down during Dark MAGA today. If you've already seen it, well, you can come hang out with us and enjoy the company. Okay, come chill with us for once. That is expected to focus on crime and homelessness in D.C. Quote, Washington, D.C. will be liberated today. Crime, savagery, filth, and scum will disappear. I will make our capital great again. The days of ruthlessly killing or hurting people, innocent people, are over. I quickly fixed the border. 0 illegals in the last 3 months. D.C. is next. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Good. And you know what? I'm sure it's going to be a lot safer. I'm sure it is. When you start deploying 1,000 National Guard troops to walk around, and I think they're going to be in undocumented cars. If you want to break the law, well, you know what? Guess what? You go to jail. It's really not that difficult. Now, Trump has repeatedly threatened to federalize D.C. over rampant crime and homelessness, and reports suggest that he's prepared to deploy up to 1,000 National Guards. Good. Well, as you can imagine, the Democrats aren't happy with that. But before we get there, we have Donald Trump talking about just a few things regarding this yesterday.
Said, my father always used to tell me, I had a wonderful father, very smart. And he used to say, son, when you walk into a restaurant and you see a dirty front door, don't go in. Because if the front door is dirty, the kitchen's dirty also. Same thing with the Capitol. If our Capitol's dirty, our whole country is dirty. And they don't respect us. So it's a very good question.
And you know who also says that? I don't say the door to the restaurant. The other route that you can look at, because a lot of them know this, where they'll clean the floors and stuff where you eat, is you want to go look at the bathrooms. And that actually comes from Gordon Ramsay from Hell's Kitchen. He would say whenever he'd walk around, because I used to watch Kitchen Nightmares, he said, I don't want to look at where people eat. I want to look at where people don't eat. And that it would be the bathroom. If the bathroom is dirty, the kitchen is dirty. That's what he would always say. So whenever I go to a restaurant, I always see what the bathroom looks like, because if they're not able to even clean the bathroom, it makes you wonder what the kitchen looks like. Well, Stephen Miller says DC will be safe, clean, beautiful, and set free, which is great. You also have JD Vance in the mix here. Here's Fox News coverage on this as well.
He's deploying the National Guard to the nation's capital and placing police under federal control now. Let's bring in D.C. Police Union Chairman Gregory Pemberton. Thank you so much, sir, for being here. So from your view, is this necessary?
Well, look, we completely agree with the president that crime in the District of Columbia is out of control and something needs to be done with it. We have to go back to how we got here, though. In 2020, the D.C. City Council passed an enormous amount of legislation that handcuffs police officers, exposes them to administrative, civil, and even criminal liability, even when they do their jobs properly. And now, 5 years later, our authorized sworn strength is 4,000 sworn police officers. We currently have 3,180. So we have more than 800 vacancies for the position of police officer. And the way the department makes up for that gap is through 2 million hours of mandatory overtime every year. So the fact that we need help from federal law enforcement and maybe even the National Guard, it shouldn't come as a surprise. And we agree with that. I think one of the issues here, though, is that we all know that's going to be temporary. So in order to fix this problem and make sure that it doesn't ebb and flow and that the feds come in and we lower crime and then they leave and we're left holding the bag, it's very important that people know that there is underlying legislation that needs to be corrected.
I agree.
So that we can actually properly staff this police department in order to properly police the city.
Well, it's not just that. It's also making sure that when these people go to jail, that they actually go to jail and you not slapping some sort of small level crime. There's the reason why, again, look at places where stuff like rising crime has happened and rising homelessness. You don't have to look at any other state other than California as a great example of what happens when you don't police, what happens when you're lax on crime, and what happens when the citizens and you got a governor that are knuckleheads and put forth things like Prop 47, where you turn it into a misdemeanor or a slap on the wrist, or usually don't even do anything if somebody shoplifts. And it's not like they're shoplifting a thing of lip balm and walking out, or a stick of gum like everybody's kind of done in their life. They're stealing trash bags full of stuff and just walking out, or shopping carts full of stuff. So it's rampant. It's bad. And for some reason, again, and we'll get to it, Democrats are irate over this. Democrats are losing their minds over Donald Trump wanting to make the streets safer for Americans.
And we're going to have the same thing here. But then I'm going to look at New York in a little while. Let's do this. Let's do this together. Let's see. It's going to go pretty quickly. And if we need to, we're going to do the same thing in Chicago, which is a disaster. We have a mayor there who's totally incompetent. He's an incompetent man. And we have an incompetent governor there. Pritzker's an incompetent. His family threw him out of the business, and he ran for governor. And now I understand he wants to be president. But I noticed he lost a little weight, so maybe he has a chance. You know, you never know what happens. But Pritzker's a gross incompetent guy, thrown out of the family business. But when I look at Chicago, and we're going to have the same thing.
So we got Trump there as well. Nancy Pelosi came out. Oh boy, she put her dentures in. I guess she didn't have to on this one since she tweeted it. Donald Trump delayed deploying the National Guard on January 6th. Isn't that remarkable when there's audio of her saying that she should have deployed the National Guard, that it was on her? But because people are too stupid, they don't even look at that she actually said that. Donald Trump delayed deploying the National Guard on January 6th when our capital was under violent attack and lives were at stake. No, Nancy, that was you. That wasn't Trump. But again, as we told you, gamble and bet that if you hear a Democrat saying something, that's usually projecting on somebody else based on what they should have done. Now, he's activating the DC Guard to distract from his incompetent mishandling of tariffs, healthcare, education, immigration, just to name a few blunders. It's a wild statement. Mishandling of tariffs seem to be going fine. Healthcare seems to be going fine. Actually, I've heard because of his immigration policy, which is a crazy thing that he's mishandling immigration. Immigration's been great, by the way. And not to mention, that also correlates to all these other things like healthcare and education, because now you have the emergency rooms cleared out. Americans are actually able to get better services now because there's not people impacting the emergency room. Now, remember, the emergency rooms are being impacted not because there's life-threatening things happening to these illegal immigrants. They were going in there to get free health care. There wasn't an actual emergency. Well, how do I know this? Well, one, I live in Southern California, and which is, we have a ton of illegals in this state, probably more than any state in the union. Maybe Texas, Arizona, maybe, but those aren't exactly sanctuary states. California is. And so I've been in the emergency room and seen it. I've been in the emergency room and had to wait 8 hours just to get a bed. And you can't even get a room in the emergency room. You sit out in the hallway in some cases to get care because there's so many people in there. So what they do is they're not in there for an emergency. They're in there because they're feeling sick. And if they feel sick, well, they can get a doctor to go ahead and write them up a bunch of prescriptions. And you go downstairs and you get yourself your prescription and you pay for it, is what it is. It's crazy what's going on. So now that's all cleared out. You have here breaking sources close to Bowser say she is furious as her lawyers are now telling her she has no grounds to challenge President Trump's federalization of D.C. due to the declared crime emergency and that she must essentially surrender to the federal takeover. You know that she is just pulling out her hair or whatever's left of it. It is hilarious. Jeff says Brad, inflation numbers came out. The monthly figure was in line with the estimate of economists polled by LSEG. White headline was slightly cooler than 2.8% expected. I'll take a look at that if we have a little bit of time. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate you, brother. So let's check out what Fox 5 is saying over there.
12 giant grocery stores in D.C. and Maryland. If you have a bag over 14 inches, you cannot take it inside the store. So what does that look like? Here's a backpack, 14 inches. This one can't go in. Also, if you're under 18 years old, you cannot go into the store after 6 p.m. without an adult. Giant store leaders say it is all because of thieves, and shoppers we spoke to say all these new rules, these are a small price to pay.
It's a private business. They can set their own rules.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't like it, shop somewhere else. It would also keep prices down for us as a consumer. And I think the stores are trying to do the best that they can to help the consumer out. And if that's what it takes, then that's what they have to do.
I'm for anything that works. If it makes anything better for the community, and if it works for the kids to keep the kids from coming in, I think because you should teach the kids not to steal. So
wow, novel idea.
Yeah, anything that works for the community and everybody else.
It's unfortunate because apparently a lot of theft has been happening, and that's the reason why. So they got to do something. Otherwise, we won't have a giant. So to prevent it from closing, I don't blame them. They got to do what they got to do.
What? You see how people just put up with this crap, though? You guys notice this? Where you have a bunch of people committing a bunch of crime to the point where now you can't even wear a backpack in stores, and anyone under 18 can't either after 6 p.m. without an adult. And people, oh, well, you know, people shouldn't steal. People should teach their kids not to steal stuff. Yeah. No, duh. Like basic parenting. Don't break the law. But, you know, this is what happens when you know, but then when you arrest a kid, right, the same exact people will say, well, you know, he's just a kid. You didn't know any better. You know, come on, you're going to ruin the kid's life over stealing stuff. Yes, I am. Absolutely, I am. 100%. In the same way, if I were to do something, my life would probably be ruined. That's why I don't do it. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So NBC puts the actual crime statistics on the screen, and Trump lies and invents imaginary stats about crime surging. The problem is, they lied about it. They lied about the crime. So there's a Metro, these statistics that come out, right, come from the Metro Police Department. You guys, oh, I'm blocking it. Okay, so right here where my cursor is, it says source, FBI, Metro Police Department, DC, right? Metro Police DC. Folks, the Metro Police, well, you have to know, lied about the crime statistics. They fabricated them. So Trump's giving the real numbers, And the numbers that they're showing on the screen are actually the false ones.
You know, when you say take a look at numbers, I just saw some charts. These are different cities throughout the world. Red is, okay, the red is a place called Washington, D.C. Look at these. Baghdad we doubled up on Baghdad. Panama City, Brasilia, San Jose, Costa Rica, Bogota, Colombia, heavy drugs. Mexico City, I mentioned, Lima, Peru, all double and triple what they are. So do you want to live in places like that? I don't think so. I don't think so. And I think the people in this room, if you wrote correctly, you'd see, look at the kind of numbers we have. D.C., 41 per 100,000, number one that we can find anywhere in the world. Other cities are pretty bad, but they're not as bad as that. Is that where you want to live? The reporters of the world? Juvenile offenders and crimes against persons, as they say. It's getting worse. Not getting better, it's getting worse. And we had
and what you will see is places like The Guardian, PolitiFact, USA Today, Popular Information, all these sites, all these news sites are titled currently, right now I'm looking at them, Trump spreads false narratives about D.C. crime. Trump inflates Washington, D.C. crime, deploys National Guard. I'm glad Trump is focused on non-existent D.C. crime wave, not his campaign promises. These are all titles today that you're seeing in the headlines. So it's okay for them to push false numbers and statistics that were manipulated and fabricated. But, Trump's the wrong one. Again, they're the ones that are projecting. It's always projecting. Trump's not the one that's giving false stuff. It is ultimately the fake news media and the Democrat Party. It's endless, but we all see through it. But the wild thing is, they will not change. That's who they are. That's what they're going to do. So what's crazy here is we also have the Democrats are furious that Trump promises to clean up D.C. So check this out. Oh, it's actually unbelievable. So you have Eric Swalwell. Trump is going to federalize D.C. Senate Dems could have stopped this when we had power. In 2021, the House voted to make D.C. a state, but a few Senate Dems flinched and basically filibustered. Now D.C. will be under an aspiring dictator's control. So it's always a dictator. It's unbelievable. But Joe Biden at no point was a dictator for him going after his political opponents, or Barack Obama and Joe Biden utilizing the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, HSA, all these three-letter agencies to go after his political opponents. I mean, that's as dictator as you're going to probably see in the United States of America. Gee, it was your own president, meaning Joe Biden, calling us a threat to democracy. He called religious people, MAGA supporters, and if you ever served in the military, terrorists in their own country, but never actually called the Iranian government over there a terror organization, from my understanding, or at least I never saw it really being outspoken as much as him calling us a threat to democracy. I think pretty much a threat to democracy in the Republic of the United States would be a foreign adversary trying to wipe us out with a nuclear warhead, which i.e. would be Iran giving it to the Houthis, which was already known to blow up our merchant vessels over the Red Sea. But Joe Biden said, stop doing that, stop doing that, stop doing that. Gee, it would probably be an issue when you have a president of the United States through Fast and Furious case giving munitions to an enemy that was ultimately killing police officers and border patrol agents. That seems like a pretty dictatorship thing to do. But I mean, we could really go down the list here. Oh, I don't know, maybe going after specific party members of conservatives or Republicans, utilizing the IRS, which is another government agency, which is what is known by the dictatorship to do. But yeah, Donald Trump's a terrible guy, really terrible guy. Give me a break. Hakeem Jeffries is out here. He can never keep his mouth shut. Violent crime is Washington, D.C. is at a 30-year low. Donald Trump has no basis to take over the local police department and zero credibility on the issue of law and order. Get lost, except, well, he's going to do it and try to stop him, I suppose. Buzz Patterson. Here's the early morning DC talking points. Here we go. It's probably all going to be the same thing. I haven't seen this yet, so let's see here. DC violent crime is a 30-year low. Crime is down 35%. Oh, violent crime is down by 25%. It's weird how they all these different statistics, but the statistics are trustworthy. Crime is at a 30-year low. So notice that they were all these people are probably paid off, by the way. When you have all the same exact talking points, probably paid off. Most likely. Especially this guy right here. This guy, Brian Krasenstein, or whatever his name is, definitely just a... that dude will do anything for the Democrat Party, let me tell you. But the red states and several others pointed out the source of the data those Democrats were citing was the Washington, D.C. Metro Police Department, where a commander had just been suspended for what? What does it say right there, Patriots? Altering crime statistics in an effort to downplay the city's obvious problem. Uh-oh. Sounds like an issue. FYI, the source of all the claims that crime is down in D.C. is the D.C. Metro PD, which is led by a far-left DEI advocate who had been suspended as commander for altering crime statistics. It's a big issue. So you have another one here that was responding to Richard Stengel saying that it's a 30-year low crime. In July of 2025, D.C. police commander suspended for downgrading shootings, stabbings, and carjackings to lesser offenses to make crime stats look better. Absolutely. Here we go. NBC analyst says Trump is trying to bring down D.C.'s crime rate.
One of the things that
is racist.
We have seen over and over from the president, from his team, Stephen Miller saying it's like Baghdad in Ethiopia. They seem to hold their harshest criticism sometimes for cities that are majority black and brown. Do you see that, and what do you think that means?
I think that I have been dealing kind of with this issue for a number of years. It's kind of easy fodder on the campaign trail. But now we're talking about governing, and my job is to focus on making sure our city is running well, and people enjoy a great quality of life.
But they're not. That's why you have homeless everywhere. Mind you, I've been to DC many of times. I used to live in Maryland. No, it was gross then. It's gross now because you don't want to do your job. It's nice that you look all fancy, but people have to worry about getting shoplifted, mugged, robbed in the streets when they're just out there to sightsee. Yeah, you don't want to do your job, lady.
And I think we're doing a really good job.
You're not.
We do need the federal government's help, as I mentioned, because they have an outsized influence on our criminal justice system. We need more prosecutors. We need more judges. There are other ways to help. Even we want to rebuild our jail, and there are ways that the feds can help with that. But also just doing their part, cutting the grass, fixing the fountains, making sure that federal law enforcement is doing all of the policing that they can do. And I just have to say thank you to MPS, FBI, ATF, who've always worked cooperatively with us, and we expect that they will again.
So there you have it. Again, analyst says Trump is trying to bring down DC's crime rate because he's racist. I don't even know what the hell that means. But it's typical race baiting, right? Typical race baiting. Dana Bash talking about President Trump's plan to address the crime in DC.
And just as we go to break, I should note that the most violent moment in recent history in DC was January 6th.
Here we go.
And it was an attack on the United States Capitol by a lot of people who were doing it in the name of Donald Trump. And it included the people who were hurt, included members of law enforcement.
I got to go to the comments on this one. I am curious what people are going to say. There you go. It's always January 6th, right? So this, of course, is not true, as the Black Lives Matter riots and disruptive protests in D.C. lasted for weeks, followed by high crime in the years after. Julio, yes, sir, you get a heart on that one. That is 100% correct. But remember, you have to memory hold that. Gee, it sounds a lot like when Brad started the show today, he may or may not have mentioned Black Lives Matter. Brad may or may not have mentioned Antifa. Brad may or may not have mentioned that Chaz and Chop over there in Portland, in Seattle, Washington, the places where they took over cities. Brad may have already mentioned this. Yes, sir. Hey, Grok, did Donald Trump offer the National Guard on January 6th? Yes or no? Yes, according to testimony by Mark Milley and Anthony Ornato, Trump offered up to 10,000 National Guard troops to secure the Capitol prior to January 6th. Gee, what was Nancy Pelosi's message on that one? From the horse's mouth that was videotaped by her own people. Everybody's going to Black Lives Matter in D.C. streets, burning down cars, right? But remember, it's always January 6th. Yep. Remember, no, it's mostly, what do you mean? All this, right? Mostly peaceful. Yeah. No, they just, folks, come on, stop it. They just didn't parallel park correctly. This car is going to start up tomorrow morning on their way to work. That's fine. These things are built to last nowadays. This one right here, you just have to flip it over. They ran over a rock. It was a pebble in the street. The potholes are the things that need to be fixed, not this. Come on. You're being silly right now. Oh, the graffiti on it? Well, that's tough. I would say a pigeon probably put that on there. I can't blame anybody for doing that. You're crazy. You're so silly. So anyways, people are just destroying this narrative right here. I love it. I love the town square, man. It is a remarkable thing. It could bite you in the ass, but it is truly a remarkable thing. You think we're done with this yet? Oh, not yet. Secretary Burgum says this is not a partisan issue. This is a place where we showcase America, and we cannot showcase America in a place where the police are not allowed to enforce crime.
The press from around the world, the press that covers this thing, they live in D.C. President Trump opened the conference by saying, look, I'm sure all of you know somebody personally who's been mugged or someone who's been murdered, someone who's had crime committed against them. And the room was silent and nodding. I mean, this is not a partisan issue, and I don't know how the other party decides that they're going to make this a partisan issue, but certainly President Trump's on the right track. Police need strong leadership. Police need to know they have their back. We've defunded police in our major cities. That's been a campaign promise of Democrats, which makes no sense, because if people have a right in this country to have an opportunity to go out to dinner with their family, to have their kids feel safe, and particularly here in the nation's capital, where we have tens of millions of visitors a year from around the world that come to see our monuments, our free museums. This is the place where we showcase America, and we can't showcase America in a place where the police are not allowed to enforce the law. President Trump has the back of police, not just here, but across the country. And I tell you, the rank and file police are thrilled to have leadership that is supporting them.
I love when I get to go around and I see police officers patrolling. Like if I go into a Starbucks and I see an officer having a cup of coffee, I've always mentioned this, right? I always offer food or coffee or whatever. And you should do the same to any sort of law enforcement that you see, whether they're an a-hole or not. I think it's a good practice for us to do that, to know that we support our local law enforcement that are supposed to be keeping our community safer. And I know that, look, if the place is going to get robbed by a police officer there, that guy's an idiot. But two, odds are it's not going to be robbed, that it's a deterrence because there's a police or a man in uniform or a woman in uniform sitting in that coffee shop. My dad and my grandfather were cops, and what they used to always say is, there's that cliche of old school that you're going way back when, but you go into a coffee shop and you see a police officer there. And my dad said, well, police officers tend to go inside coffee shops because it's cheap, right? A cup of coffee's pennies for the people making it. And so's making a donut. And so they'll offer them donuts and coffee for free. And he said they do that because it's cheap security. He goes, they know that they're not going to get robbed when you have a police officer in there doing his reports with coffee and donuts. It is cheap security for them. And by the way, it's a remarkable thing that people don't rob something when there's cops in a building. Gee, it's weird to Democrats, not to me. I absolutely love it and adore it. So we need more of that taking place. But Democrats, if you're curious just what Democrats are doing right now, well, I could show you right now. This is what they're doing. Now, if you're on audio, again, please understand, folks, that we have a lot of people in the live chat, but we also have a lot of people watching as well. And then we have hundreds of those that watch afterwards, after we're live. So one, I want to say thank you for always tuning into the mornings to enjoy the Bald Brad Show. And hopefully you get a lot out of this show that we do here. But if you're curious what that banging is, that is one of those stainless steel, I don't know if you call it a bowl / pan. You know, when you go to Chipotle and you have to get the rice, or you want to get the cheese or whatever, and they have them in those metal bins that sit into the countertop. She has a spoon and she's banging on one of those I don't even know what the hell you call it, but it is a bowl. But it's like one of those things you get out of the kitchen. You know what I'm talking about? Those stainless steel things that they scoop the chicken out of at Chipotle or whatever. What the hell are you doing, lady? So here we go. Greg Price, Trump, I'm going to make D.C. safe place for the people who live there. D.C. libtards, we must go outside and bang pots and pans. So this is what they're going to do. They're going to get loud starting tonight. They're going to get loud. Oh, that's just great. So we're trying to clean up our cities, make them safe again, hopefully quiet it down a little bit so people can actually enjoy the freaking outside rather than hearing people banging loud crap all around. But silence is complicit. Or what is that, complicit? So we need to get loud. Starting tonight, let me move down. There we go. Starting tonight and every night of this occupation, go outside at 8 p.m. and bang pots and pans, singing, chant, and make noise for 5 minutes. Because that's going to get people on your side. You're going out at 8 p.m. There's people trying to put their kids to bed, and you're going to be banging pots and pans and singing and chanting. Oh, gee, that's a great thing to get the neighbors riled up, right? Oh, that's going to get them on your side, you idiots. How about you shut up and let people enjoy the time that they have off work? They get off at 5. Lord only knows how long that commute's going to be. They're already tired. The kids are probably complaining. You finally get them down to bed and quiet. You get some peace and quiet finally in your entire day. And you're going to sit down with your wife who's probably been nagging you, or your husband who's probably been nagging you, or whatever. Thank God I don't deal with any of that. Praise the Lord. And you just want to sit down. Enjoy yourself. But nope, you got a Karen coming outside doing this. No, I'm just going to keep it going. Turn it up, Brad. Okay. Turn it up. This is what they want to do. Isn't this great? Yeah, you support this? Yeah, I think you get the hint. Bunch of idiots. Not you guys. These idiots on my screen. This idiot. Just children, man. It's just children. You know what I mean? Rather than actually going out and hiring more police officers and maybe them cleaning up their streets, why don't we ever see Congress people going out there and mowing their own constituents' lawns every now and then? You guys notice that? Like, I've never seen it, to be honest. It's weird that there's always these sidewalks that are crap, potholes that are crap, lawns that are crap, right? The whole neighborhoods are really just dilapidated. Granted, it should be the own people living in the neighborhood helping each other out, to be fair. But why are these people never out there knocking on your door saying, hey, I noticed that your grass is overgrown. I would either like to help pay or get a local church or whatever to help clean this up. And even if you're not going to do it, right? Let's just pretend that you're busy running Congress. Get it? Why are you not going out there trying to make your communities? I mean, isn't it amazing that there's places that are Democrat ran forever? Like legitimately since the inception of this country, there are places that have never had a Republican in it. And they are so dilapidated. And they will tell you that, oh, well, Republicans are the ones that are destroying my area. It is such a wild way of thinking that I will never be able to wrap my head around it. Well, we have other news here. It's not just that, but that was the huge and big news that everybody's talking, and still is talking about, by the way, which is why I wanted to spend about 30 minutes on it. We have here, U.S. gets cut of AI chip sales to China. In a first of its kind deal, tech giants NVIDIA and AMD have agreed to give the U.S. government a 15% share of the revenue they earn from selling certain artificial intelligence chips to China. Now, from my understanding, the chips, or in other words, I guess the generational chips that they're giving them is really low tier stuff. It's nothing that's going to blow anything out of the water. And to be fair, I wouldn't be surprised if China has already stolen the intellectual property from Intel and AMD on this stuff anyways, because the Chinese don't actually create anything. They just steal it and then create it. So I always love that how people are like, oh, well, you know, all these scientists and all these other countries are excelling us in education, and they're the ones that are really developing all this great stuff. Well, if that's the case, then why are they stealing all our stuff? Wouldn't they look at us and be like, it's all right, man, we're making stuff better than them? They've always stole all our stuff. The Russians do it. The Iranians do it. The Chinese do it. And people go, oh, well, we're stealing their stuff. Really? Why are we so far ahead of them? What the hell are we stealing from them? Give me a break. I'm sure we do steal stuff. See, when you say things like that, they go, oh, what about this, this, and this? Yes, because we speak in terms of general here. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Well, you want to know what's unbelievable here is hopefully you're enjoying the Ball Brad Show. Again, we're going to be live. We're not going anywhere yet, but we're going to be live again later today at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for Dark MAGA. This is a very important announcement, so I want everybody to hear this. From what I've been told from those over at Rumble is that if you become a member, a channel member to the Ball Brad Show over at Rumble, you can watch Rumble Premium with us. So you do not need to pay that $99 to watch Rumble Premium or my content over at Rumble. All you need to do is just become a member, and which, by the way, is supporting me directly over at Rumble. So if you become a Rumble member for the Ball Brad Show, like you're a member at YouTube, right? Some of you will become a Ball Brad Army or a Patriot member over at YouTube. Exact same thing over at Rumble, and you'll be able to join us in Rumble Premium, which is great. Before that was not a thing. So again, if you become a member over at Rumble, you can join us for Rumble Premium at 4 p.m. I think it's $4.99 a month. And, some of you are in here every single morning, every single day. You guys watch the show more than you watch actual TV shows, but you are paying for all this woke nonsense taking place. You might as well support a patriot that you know is on your side. And look, I try my best here, and you know that I always love your support. So thank you guys. I really appreciate that. A lot of you have been using the website too. God bless you for that. I really, really do appreciate you using the website, and everybody that always donates. God bless you guys. Keep the lights on here for me. They're flickering, but it works. It works. I'm teasing a little bit. Well, President Trump explained that the deal was possible because the chip in question is the H2O. That's not water, folks. Calm down. It's called H20. Is an old chip, and that China already has a similar one. If I'm going to do that, I want to pay us a country something. I want you to pay us a country something because I'm giving you a release. So there you go. Trump making deals, which is nice to actually see that we got money coming into the United States again and making America great, hopefully. Remember, Donald Trump's only been in office for 7 months going on. No, not even 7 months yet. It'll be 7 months on the 20th. Trump reclaims border wall materials. This is a big update for us. Now, if you recall, right before Donald Trump was going to come into office, Joe Biden, during his entire tenure as president, literally laid border wall in the middle of the desert and allowed it to basically rust out there. And the reason why this is fascinating, and I said this for years, so if you're a longtime listener, you will know exactly what I'm talking about, and you know where I'm going. Doug Ducey and Greg Abbott tried to stop the massive influx of illegal immigration taking place at the southern border during Joe Biden's tenure. And so Joe Biden kept telling you, and Karine Jean-Pierre, Jen Psaki, her predecessor, were always saying, well, it's just a situation. It's just a challenge. It was never a crisis when you have millions of people pouring across the border, basically invading, which is amazing because it's an invasion with 120,000 troops of Russian soldiers going into Ukraine. See, that right there is an invasion, is what they called it. But when you have millions of people pouring across the border, in some ways with sex trafficking, drug trafficking, gun trafficking, all this stuff taking place, that's not an invasion. But I'm going to digress with that one. So Joe Biden comes out and says he's doing everything he can, right? Oh, okay, I'll get it done. It's just a situation. Let me crap my pants real quick. Doesn't do anything. So, you got to do something because your constituents are who you speak on behalf of. And they said, look, we don't want this coming into our local communities. It's driving us insane. So they try to put up makeshift border wall. And what they use shipping containers. And so the same time that Joe Biden and his administration are saying they're doing everything they can, they're working with the states to try to solve this problem for 4 years, by the way. They had their EPA. Joe Biden had his EPA go out and say that you have to remove that border wall because it wasn't environmentally friendly. At the exact same time, Joe Biden was allowing border wall to rust in the desert. So you have nice shipping containers out in the middle of the desert, not harming any wildlife whatsoever. That has to come down. But you can't have and remove the border wall that's rusting in the dirt. Can somebody explain the thinking on that one for me? I'm sure somebody has some sort of asinine rationale, but it doesn't line up no matter which way you try to pretzel that bad boy. For Democrats, it always does, right? The pretzel, for some reason, does make a loop and does connect somewhere, but boy, oh boy, you got to twist that motherfucker really to make it work. And that's what they do with their line of thinking. So you have here the company, Government Planet, which has been tasked with selling the materials. Now, remember, right before Donald Trump got in office, Joe Biden started auctioning off that border wall for legitimately like $1. $1, which was sabotage. Remember, they were calling it sabotage, the Trump administration, and it was. Because Trump was like, I can use it. I can make it great again. I can rebuild this sucker for pennies. And it was messed up because it's going to cost you guys more money, right? Because obviously as time goes on, things get more expensive. So maybe rather than paying, I'm just going to make up a number, okay, to be silly, $10 for that piece of border wall. Well, now you got to pay $20 because we're 4 years down the road. Inflation went through the roof under Joe Biden. Granted, it came down a little bit, but things are still going to be inflated because it's year over year. And now you're paying $20 for that border wall when that same border wall was only going to originally cost you $10. So not only did you spend the $10, you're going to get $1 back. So now it's $9. So you spent $9 on something that was never built, but now you got to spend $20 to get new border walls. So now you're spending $29 at the end of the day. So it's like a double middle finger to all of you, but it's okay. We'll look the other way because it was Joe Biden. No big deal. No problem. Well, they reached an agreement with the administration to transfer them back to the government at cost over the next 90 days. So at least we're getting it back. And I'm assuming it's probably going to be cheaper than manufacturing this stuff all over again. Now, this move reverses the Biden administration's effort that critics said was intended to hamstring the Trump's border security. Oh, it 100% was. Critics, give me a break. Logic, reason says that it was going to hamstring Trump's border security agenda. Are you kidding me? Like, what other thought would you have to do that? It's just, don't even get me going. I'm gonna get riled up. The big beautiful bill allocates nearly $50 billion to complete the. Hold on one second. I want to make sure that we got a few people following us. I want to make sure I give them the credit where credit's due. Nag1229 started following us. Appreciate you. And it looks like Search 696 left us a comment. Thank you so much for doing that. Appreciate you. Hopefully I didn't miss any live stuff here. But so we get $50 billion. And on Monday, an illegal alien was, did this RAPED and deleted a individual, a mother of 5. So in 2023. So that's taking place, which is always news. But remember, the Democrats don't care. Yeah, they haven't cared in years, but they'll tell you they will. It's one thing to say that you care. It's another thing to actually prove that you do. They don't prove anything that they care. You want to know how we know that? I mean, I've always said this. It really does boggle the mind that, when they do the White House press briefings and Caroline Leavitt has the images of the illegal immigrants that committed all these heinous, just evil, they murdered, they raped, they do all these things, right? Sell people off into forced labor, which is slavery and sex trafficking. They move right past it, the press. They don't even ask, hey, what's some updates with these guys? Are they actually behind bars? Are they being deported? Can you give us an update on the children? Do you notice there's never investigative conversation about, hey, we tried to reach out to the family, but they didn't want to talk, which I get. They don't want to make it a big deal that some heinous thing happened to their daughter or whatever. Do you notice that there's never anything of the sort? They just move right on past, hey, we heard Trump wants to federalize D.C. Did you not just hear the heinous things these people just committed? And it wasn't just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They do it every White House press briefing. There's thousands of this taking place. And they're like, not a big deal. Moving on. Like what? Huh? Maybe a round of applause for the Trump administration getting these people out there because it could have happened to you. Could have happened to you. Unbelievable. All righty. Well, let's get into a little bit of some other news here. Abbott is vowing a special session. So this is an update with what's going on with the gerrymandering stuff and with the Democrats fleeing the state of Texas. So here's an update for you. I always try to keep you guys updates on prior stories that we have covered in the past. That's why it's so important you show up here every morning, because we go over the news. Not only that, but I think I do a pretty good job. You guys let me know in the chat. I think I do a pretty good job of making sure you guys are updated on old stories that we've covered in the past, i.e. the border wall, i.e. what's going on here with Texas Governor Greg Abbott and the gerrymandering. So he said Sunday that he would continue to call special sessions of the Texas legislature until the rogue Democrats who fled the state to block redistricting returned. Now, from my understanding, when they return, they're supposed to be getting arrested. Now, they're also, from what I heard, they're also getting the reports of the, not the reports, they're also not getting their paychecks. They have to actually go, I believe, to D.C. to pick those up. And upon them getting arrested. So Abbott pledged to arrest the Democrats and take them to the Capitol building once they returned to Texas so the legislature could reconvene. Around 50 House Democrats left the state last week to block the legislature. By the way, if this is such an issue too, what you should be doing is putting in the law that if you flee the state upon doing something like this, you actually lose your seat altogether. And that you'd have to do a whole thing over again. You could still vote and all those other things. This is bullcrap, dude. I'm trying not to cuss. I know I already did, but it's there. Groove, I know, man. Groove, I love your brother, okay? The AB 495, I know. I see it. You put it in the chat every day, dude. I see it. Trust me, okay? I see it. So if anybody wants to look at AB 495, I know it's a big deal. Groove, I get it. People can look that up. We'll get there, okay? But yes, it is a big deal. I understand that. So I'm authorized to call a special session every 30 days and it lasts 30 days. And as soon as this one is over, I'm going to call one another, then another, then another, and then another. So there's some updates for you, but they're still not back. So, but don't worry though, this is racist and it's evil and despicable. How could Republicans do this? How could they do it along party and racial lines? But yet, you look at Illinois, you look at all these other whack job Democrat states, and they're doing the exact same thing, which is always mind blowing. We have updates on what's going on with Gaza, and there's a narrative that's being spelt out here. And Rubio's hitting the media over the Gaza narrative and what's being spread. Well, what is that narrative exactly? So Rubio criticized the media on Thursday over its coverage of the war in Gaza and explained how some of the America's allies are making peace harder to achieve by effectively ignoring the threat of Hamas. So the World Over host Raymond Aro asked Rubio during a lengthy interview about his thoughts on Israel President Benjamin Netanyahu likely wanted to occupy Gaza, a plan Netanyahu recently denied. It looks like Benjamin Netanyahu wants to occupy Gaza. Is occupation of Gaza the right way to go right now? And what about the humanitarian crisis? Ultimately, what Israel needs to do for Israel's security will be determined by Israel. I could tell you the way to break this out is there are three problems there at the same time. Number one is the one that's getting almost all the media coverage. This is the humanitarian problem that we are seeing. No one wants to see that. And the United States stands prepared to contribute towards any real effort that will actually get food and medicine and life-sustaining aid to people on the ground in Gaza. The second is that there are 20 innocent people being held hostage and starved inside the tunnels. Unfortunately, there aren't daily cameras down there covering that, so you don't see the mainstream media covering it, but there are 20 people that have done nothing wrong that are being held as hostage, and we saw the conditions that they are living in the other day. Yeah, I mean, I saw a guy look to be allegedly digging his own grave, and that legitimately looked I want to say, I mean, people are going to be upset that I'm saying this, and I'm not saying there aren't people starving in Gaza. There 100% are. The footage that I have seen constantly is them going out and getting food. But I've seen a lot of people that are just as look like me in terms of body weight going and gathering food. And then I see the hostage and the dude looks like a Holocaust victim. So I'm looking at people that are allegedly starving, and I have no reason to think that they are not. But then I look at the guy that looks like, holy shit, dude, you are starved. Let me tell you, you are skin and bones. You look like the dude that was in a concentration camp or a death camp, and you walked out of your cabin that's built halfway into the earth, and you're just bone, man. You are just bone. And I'm looking at him compared to everybody else. I'm like, hostage look really malnourished compared to a Gaza person. Now, again, there's people starving in Gaza. I want them to get food. You can only be so clear with this stuff, right? But when you start talking like this, oh, you're a Zionist. I don't even know much about Israel. I live in the United States. I care about America. I would love people in Gaza to get food. I would love it. And continue to fly it in there. No problems with it. No problems. Just want people to get along. I also don't want terrorists to run entire areas like Gaza. I don't want that to happen. And I'm sure the Gaza people, the Palestinians, don't want that to happen. As long as Hamas exists, particularly exists as an armed organization, there will never be peace in Gaza. Correct? Hamas is not going to suddenly change and go into another line of work. Correct? Their line of work, their reasoning for existing is that they want to destroy Israel. They want to drive out every Jew out of the Middle East. That's their goal. And as long as a group like that has weapons and ability to fight, they're a threat to peace. Correct? I think people need to wrap their minds around that Israel's not going to let this go. And just because you bitch, moan, and complain about it on social media and on the internet, they're still going to do it. You can keep shouting and tire yourself out. They don't care. And just because you go on national television or do a podcast like mine, they don't care what you think. And you going on national television to try to create a ruckus, it doesn't really make it over there. They don't really care. They don't. That's important. But the other have to be dealt with as well. Not enough time, not enough attention is being paid to those. Hamas thinks they're winning the global PR war, that they're not willing to make any concessions. Well, there you have it. So it's weird that Israel's supposed to bend the knee, but not Hamas is supposed to bend the knee. And I'm not saying it's an easy solution. Again, I'm not well read up on any of the conflict in detail of what is happening, which is why I try to just report what is taking place. And then when I read something, I'm like, well, this seems a little bit weird. Or I heard this person say that. That's a little bit weird. And then I try to make sense and meaning of it all. And very rarely does it ever make sense from both sides, by the way. There's always something idiotic that Israel's doing. There's something always idiotic that some person's saying on the internet. And there's always something idiotic that somebody's saying about Gaza or the Palestinians. It's all idiotic, really. But, there will never be really anything that's going to get fixed over there until people stop, terrorizing. How about that? That'd be great. Let's see what else we have here. So the big thing that's coming up this week that we need to continually be aware of is the deal between Trump and Vladimir Putin. Now, I saw a clip. I don't have it in front of me, but I did see a clip from yesterday's White House press briefing where Trump said he'll know within 2 minutes if Vladimir Putin is going to make a deal or not. And it's kind of a foolish question. Somebody goes, well, how would you be able to tell? Well, one, why would he tell you that and broadcast it to Vladimir Putin that's going to end up utilizing it in his negotiation tactics? And it's true. For example, you don't have to be sophisticated to know if somebody's willing to make a deal, especially when you've been doing it your entire life. You just know automatically. In the same way, like, for example, it's a very rough analogy, but you'll get what I mean, is that me as an educator, I know when a student either knows the problem or doesn't know the problem just based on probably the first 30 seconds. I don't have to ask too many questions because they'll say, I'll help them through something and they'll say, oh, okay, thank you. I got it. And then I go, are you sure? And they go, yeah, I think I got it. And you just know based on the way they say it, based on their look, their mannerisms, I'm like, you definitely don't got it. So then you have to step in, right? And then go, well, I don't think you have it, but I'll stand here and kind of watch you. You can just tell. Or also when you have a lefty with pigtails up there, you kind of know at the beginning of the conversation if their head's on straight or not. And if it's worth even your time to have a conversation with a psycho lefty that's Trump derangement syndrome and, thinks that they can alter reality. You just go, I don't think this one's really worth it. We've all been there. You've all done it. And we could tell if, it's worth our time of day to even be talking to somebody. Alrighty, let's see what else is in the news before we depart one another. Allegedly, this took place yesterday. You're going to love this one. Adam Schiff is directed to release of classified info to target Trump. This is big news that dropped late yesterday. Democrat Senator Adam Schiff directed the leaking of classified documents to target President Donald Trump and influence public opinion, according to whistleblower claims in newly declassified FBI documents. I'm going to say this again. I've always heard, even from Democrats and Republicans, this guy right here, more than anybody else in Congress, I have heard that when people are around this guy, they get chills. Like evil is what people kind of call him, is that this dude is like really, really dark. Now, I don't have any proof of that. I just want to be clear. This is what people say. And I don't have names. Forgive me. I've heard this many of times, though. Somebody would say, well, if you heard it many of times, wouldn't you have names? Of course, but I can't pull it off the top of my head right now. But I've heard this from Democrat Congress people, and I've heard this from Republican Congress people, that Adam Schiff is one of the, even when you're around him, the dude just seems evil, dark, and just scummy. And I've heard he's one of the worst people in Congress is what I've heard. Now, take that with what you will. Take it with a grain of salt for all I care. A whistleblower who worked for the Democrats on the House Intelligence Committee told the FBI that Schiff has pushed for the leaking of classified documents in a meeting after Trump's election in 2016, according to a summary of an interview obtained by Just the News, which is a great news site, by the way, if you want to get news. I use them every now and then for my research. Schiff was a major proponent of the discredited narrative that Trump schemed with the Russians to get elected in 2016. The whistleblower claimed that Schiff orchestrated a plan to hurt Trump by leaking classified documents, according to the interview. Look at this. In the meeting, Schiff stated the group would leak classified information, which was derogatory to the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Schiff stated the information would be used to indict President Trump, the FBI memo said. Redacted person stated this would be illegal, and upon hearing his concerns, unnamed members of the meeting reassured the individual that they would not be caught leaking classified information. The whistleblower believed that leaking would be unethical, illegal, and treasonous. The whistleblower would later approach about leaking classified information in a separate meeting by unnamed individuals. I mean, it was really a bombshell report that came out last night. Yeah, see, RJ gets in the chat. He is evil Adam Bleep. Yep. Yeah, I've heard some really wild things about that guy. Of course, he comes from my home state, and we always produce the most evil of Congress people for some reason. You know, Governor Gavin Newsom, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, Barbara Boxer, Adam Schiff. I mean, it's amazing how many people really come out of this state that suck at their job, and then all of a sudden they're at the highest levels of office. But I want to make sure I bring that to all of you guys, because you're constantly seeing whistleblowers coming out. There's like 20 of them, by the way. There are more than 20, I think, at this point, that are coming out saying what they did was wrong. Here's the proof, which is a great thing to see. But what you're not seeing is the media really pushing this hard. Can you imagine if this came out from about the Trump administration? Like the Trump administration doing this? Are you kidding me? Wall to wall coverage. It would be wild what we would see. Well, with that being said, we're going to be back here later today at 4 p.m. sharp Pacific Standard Time. We'll break down more news. We'll break down our breaking news. And remember, it's more long form video. I want to check out the White House press briefing for a little bit. And we'll probably go for an hour. But I'd really love for you guys to join us again. If you're part of Rumble Premium and you become a member over there, $4.99, I think it is, you can join us for Rumble Premium when we're not live for everybody. Remember, half the month is restricted for Rumble Premium, and it's a really great opportunity for you to jump in and interact with a few of us that are in the chat, but also me as well. And it's more of an intimate setting. It's more of an intimate setting where we'll actually have a conversation, go back and forth. And that's what I think it's about, is to build the relationship, not just with your content creator that you watch, but also with the community that's there as well. So I hope to see everybody later this afternoon at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on The Bald Brad Show. Pray for one another. Pray for Donald Trump. Pray for this country. And let's pray for some peace here on earth, folks. With that being said, I'll see you a bit later today. Appreciate you. Take care.